Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to NFR. It's Sunday night, so that means it's time for SKR. Of course, tonight is a sprint race, so a reminder of the format. There is no qualifying session. Grid is determined by a reverse of the championship order. And then obviously we will have that sprint race. That sprint race will then determine the order in which we get started for the feature. Get the dual green lights. That means formation lap. Guys will get an opportunity to go around, try and get some tyre temps. Seems to be a common problem on this game, not able to get those front tyres warmed up. When you're heading off into turn one with the field this large behind you, you want to be confident on the brakes. You can do while they're on the formation lap. Let's read through that order. Your starting order is Ferrari P1, followed by the two Williams, Chums and Stoffel P2 and 3. Then we got Big Rhino P4, got Smurf P5, Skull P6, first of the two Aston Martins, then Horsepower 2 and P7, Top Gun P8, Boinkies P9, Divan P10. And then we've got the fast guys starting at the rear of the field. We've got Mr. M, Make It Pantry Star P11, Mr. M P12, Spikes 13, Virus 14, Andre 15, and then Convoy starting from the rear of the field. And you can expect those drivers at the back to make their way through. Remember, the drivers leading the championship get the biggest disadvantage going into the sprint race. It's a good opportunity for someone who finds themselves on the wrong side of the championship to hold on to track position here, get a good position, get some good points. Of course, only the top 8 score points in a sprint race, unlike a feature race where it's the top 10. Just 8 points for the victory. That's not the camera angle we want to see. Let's ride on board. Let's see if we can get a better camera angle. Lights go out. It's Ferrari versus Chums, and it seems like it's Ferrari's got the much better start. Yes, he does. Heads off into turn one in the lead. Ooh, and got the Williams. I don't know if they made contact. But the lead Williams losing control, getting on the grass. The next Williams, that was Chums, also getting it out of shape. Maybe just trying to avoid his teammate, and in the process lost some momentum. And look at Divan. Divan all the way up into P4 already, making up positions. Horsepower 2 and P3, Smurf P2, it's Ferrari leads. Of course, it's just 12 laps in this race. You don't have to worry about tyre management. You just need to get the car to the end. It's Ferrari started from P1. And the more havoc there is behind him, the longer he can hold on to that P1. Potentially clinch a victory in this sprint race, pick up 8 points for his troubles, as well as start from pole for the feature. But until that can become a reality, he needs to finish this race. Smurf still doing a good job in P2, Horsepower 2 and P3. And we have the first of the salvers. See positions in the early stages. Here we go, Divan made up 6 positions in just the 2 laps, and Spikes as well, 6 positions. So if you thought it was going to take a while for them to get there, That's what they think about it. Everyone in the field on the medium compound, nobody trying something different. I think the soft simply can't get there, and the hard is just a waste. No real option to roll the dice. Everyone on the medium compound. That will change when we get to the feature race. Be a lot more at play. What tire do you start on? What tire do you end on? What is your strategy? And hopefully you do a better job of strategy than the McLaren team. Mistakenly switch the order of your own drivers and then force them to give those positions back. This is the Haas of Smurf getting really close to Ferrari. Almost couldn't get it stopped, did manage to get it stopped. And he's able to defend from harsh cartoon, so he almost lost P2 in an attempt to fight for P1. He's been able to hold on to that. Harsh cartoon still P3, Divan still P4 after an initial launch off the line. 6 positions taken in the first lap and a half. Now he's just stabilized, sitting in P4 for now. Skull P5, the lead Aston Martin. Then we've got Spikes, another big mover in the order, the Red Bull. Red Bull already doing better in this race than they did earlier this afternoon. The F1 car is really built strong these days. Max Verstappen literally launched up into the air and still managed to finish the race. It's Ferrari, still doing a good job of holding on to the lead. This is where it gets tough. He's within DRS, so that means Smurf, Harsh Cartoon, Divan, all within DRS. They're going to be looking to attack him lap after lap. You want to break that 1 second barrier so you don't have to worry about that boost. You can see how close the Haas gets to its Ferrari after the 2 DRS zones right at the beginning of this circuit. Smurf applying all the pressure. Knows how precious an 8 points could be. What a bonus. Picking up a victory in a sprint race. Confidence it gives you going into the feature race. And of course the pole position that comes with it. For now, it's Ferrari doing just enough. He's half a second ahead of the field, but when he comes around onto that pit straight, Smurf will have DRS. That gap just 0.4 of a second. He's going to have to open it up a little bit more than that, otherwise the Haas will come at him, if not this lap, the next. This is it's Ferrari. Let's look back from his rear wing. Obviously no DRS for him because he's the man at the front, but there will be DRS for the car just behind him, and there we go. Smurf getting awfully close. Not close enough. Wonder if he just second guessed. Just didn't. Wonder if he second guessed or if he was just too far behind. Looked like he was making up an incredible amount of ground. The 3 holds on to the lead for now. Smurf in P2, but he's not happy with the P2. He's looking to attack. He's pushing the leader, trying to force him into a mistake. Divan has cleared the Ferrari of Harsh Cartoon, so now Divan 7 positions made up in the race, up into P3. It's on the podium step. Harsh Cartoon down to 4, Skull. Still the lead Aston Martin, just ahead of Spikes now. Spikes, the other man that was making up a lot of ground in this race, now just got himself in a DRS battle, in a DRS train. He's now the second car in that DRS train. Wants to get ahead of Skull, so he can break out of that. It's Ferrari, 7/10. Gap's a little bit bigger than it was on the last lap, so he'll be a little bit more comfortable into turn 1. Smurf was too far behind on that occasion. Divan, I wonder if Smurf is just maybe dropping off the leader because he's getting a lot of pressure from the Sauber. The Kick-Sauber, powered by Ferrari until 2026. It becomes the Audi manufacturer team. I think many are excited to see it. The Reed from Smurf from Divan. Nine manufacturers in the top 9. You don't see that every day. It's Ferrari, 8 tenths, 9 tenths. Gap's actually bigger than it's been before. So he is now starting to find an advantage, and I wonder if that's Smurf just dropping off the pace, or if that's the attack coming from the Sauber that's just slightly putting him off. You had all your attention on the leader, forcing him into a mistake, trying to make an overtake, and now all of a sudden you have to look in your mirrors too. You have to sort of divide that attention. And sometimes it can make a difference of a few tenths a lap. Suddenly you find yourself out of DRS and under pressure from the car behind, but Smurf doing what he can, holding on to DRS for now, 7 tenths. DRS train all the way down to P4, so Harsh Cartoon hasn't let those 3 ahead of him disappear. And we do have a bit of a gap. Our first notable gap is between P4 and 5. It's 4.5 seconds. That's between Harsh Cartoon and Skull. Skull doing a really good job in P5. Spike's made up so much momentum at the start of the race. It's now behind Skull. Hasn't been able to make up any more overtakes. And if he just took the bite out of those tyres on the opening laps. Lots of positions made up. Of course, just the one set of tyres. Nobody intends on pitting in a sprint race. So there needs to be a certain amount of tyre management. You don't want to get to the last 2 or 3 laps of the race and just have absolutely no rubber to work with. Ooh, and that's a big lockup. That's how you mess up the tyres. Convoy P8, remember he started right at the rear of the field. That means he's made up 8 positions, started P16. For a lot of those drivers that started at the rear of the field, this race is basically a qualifying session for them. They want to get as high up the field as possible, but without any safety cars. By the time they do get to the front, the podium finishers have sort of disappeared. 1, 2, 3, 4, all very close together. Then a gap of 4 seconds down to Skull. Then we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all in a DRS train for P5. And that's what that looks like. So 7 cars within DRS with just 3 laps to go. P5 a hot position, lots of cars wanted, lots of cars will be able to see it right in front of them. Said it before, it's different when your opponent is up the road and you can barely see him, but when he's right out in front, when you can reach out and touch that rear wing, it gives you that little extra. And as the laps tick down, your bravery increases. A dive you maybe wouldn't have made at the start of the race, you start to seriously consider it at the end, and I think that was contact. And Skull, oh, what a way to end things. He was in P5 for so long, managed things for so long, and we saw it on camera. Skull, I think that was contact. The way the car suddenly jerked, didn't look like he slowly lost that, like he slowly spun that out. It was a very sudden. Sure, we'll find out after the race. Stewards may have some work to do. Rhino picks up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. While we still have time, let's just have a look at the penalties. Nothing too serious on track. 3 seconds apiece for Rhino, Convoy, and then most importantly for Smurf, because he's the man in P2. So that means if he were to catch up to SAFRL and make an overtake, he would have to clear him by a further 3 seconds. Penalty like that is what can cost you a race victory, especially in a sprint race. When you've got a few laps, don't have a lot of time, build up gaps and close gaps and cancel out penalties. There's just no time, especially in a field that is this close together. Look at the DRS trains. There's a gap between P4 and 5, but the rest of that, there's a DRS train all the way down to P11. Skull now picks up a 3-second time penalty. He'll be a little frustrated. He was in P5 going strong. Now all of a sudden finds himself in P15. Probably just wants to see the checkered flag and call the race a day. Start to focus on the feature race. And just getting annoyed and getting a penalty just to make things a little worse. The other Aston Martin is in the points. Andre in P9. But rather he's not in the points. If it was a feature race, he'd be in the points. It's in P9, only the top 8 get points. You can see those points are still very much not confirmed. Positions P5 down to P11, all within DRS range of each other. So points still on the cards for everyone in the field. There in the middle. All it needs is one mistake from a car ahead, causes a funnel effect. You're able to drive around them and all of a sudden you pick up 2 or 3 positions. Just got to stay on the limit, stay in that DRS train and hope for the misfortune of others. Of course, not the easiest race circuit on the calendar to make overtakes. For many years it was known as the Monaco without barriers. Things have changed slightly since then. If you look at the layout, track is pretty much the same, almost identical, but track has been widened, track has evolved rather for modern F1. Not as bad as it was, and DRS does make a difference. This is really your biggest passing opportunity, at least your safest one, into turn 1 and then turn 3. Here you've got to be a little Max Verstappen, you've got to be a little brave. Elevation change here in Hungary. Don't have the stats in front of me, but I think it's something like 35 meters. And you can see it there in the middle of sector 2. Just a lot of up and down. You can't see the apex going into that left. You just got to throw the car in. You know the apex is there. You can't see it. Just throw the car in. Hope you hit it. Cartoon P2. What a race he's had. Divan P3 made up a lot of positions at the start, got himself up into P4 and then just got stuck there for a while. Then finally made an overtake, got himself up into P3 and secured himself the podium. And there we go, Free over the line, Harsh Cartoon P2 and Divan makes up the podium sitters. We'll let those results work themselves out. There's a few penalties there. And we'll read out your official results. Those official results will be your sprint race results, of course, as well as your pit order for, rather your starting order for the feature race. Of course, winner of the race here, starting pole, Divan, who had a fantastic launch, making up 7 positions in the race. Spike Stakes driver of the day. Well, Divan made up all that ground this time. He's going to start from P3, so if he has a similar launch, he'd be into the lead in turn 1. So there's your results. It's for P1, then Harsh Cartoon finishes P2, Divan P3, Spikes P4, what a drive, up into P4, then Pantry Star P5, Smurf P6, Virus P7, Andre takes the last point for Aston Martin. Then we've got Wanky's, Top Gun, Convoy, Mr. M, Chums, Stoffel. Am I going to get to the end? Yes, I am. Skull and Big Rhino. Of course, now we look down the vacant pit lane while the drivers do their final touch-ups to their cars, final touch-ups to their strategies. Of course, in the sprint race, everything was pretty standard. Everybody went on the medium, went right to the end of the race on the medium. No need to pit. Feature race, very different. You need to pick which tire you're going to start on. How deep do you intend to go in the race? Are you going to start on something soft so you can get a better start? Are you going to start on something hard so you can go deeper into the race? Looks like everyone is leaving the lobby. That means we are probably going to set up a new lobby for the feature race, but you can stay with the stream. We're not going to split the video up. You can just stay with us, and as soon as we get that lobby running, we'll be on our way again.
sports. It's in the game.
Coming through the pit lane, no burnouts, no starts. Steady on the way through.
Can I go mode 7 on start finish, please? Mode 7.
Welcome back. Of course, now we had the sprint race. It's going to determine the order for this race here. Had to create a new lobby, and my game also decided to crash, so there's a new one. But eventually we are back on track. Or at least they're back on track, I'm not. So we look down the empty pit lane. Drivers will be on the start finish straight, getting ready. Final preparations. Tyre are they going to start on? How deep into this race do they intend to go? Of course, you might see drivers at the back putting on a set of softs, trying to come through the field, have a good start. All sort of options are open and on the table. Of course, SKR had that record for 3 weeks with no safety cars. That was broken last week. We didn't see any safety cars or virtual safety cars or hardly any yellows in that sprint race. Let's hope for more of the same. Again, dual green lights means we'll be off for a formation lap before we get underway for the real deal. I'll go through that order just to remind everybody how things will get going. It's Ferrari will lead the way from Harsh Cartoon. Then on the second row, Divan and Spikes. Interestingly enough, those are the two drivers that made up the most positions in the race. This time round, they'll be starting from the second row, so they don't have that many cars to pass. And next up, third row, Pantry Star and Smurf. Then P7 and 8, Virus and Andre. P9, Boinkies. P10, Top Gun. Then Convoy, P11, Mr. M, P12, Chums, 13, followed by his teammate Stoffel, 14. Skull's gonna have to start all the way down in P15. Had that car in P5 for a majority of the race. Then an incident right at the end of the race put him out of the points and out of the top 10. He's gonna have to start from P15, just ahead of the man who makes up the field, Rhino. Some drivers don't enjoy the formation lap. Personally, I do. Gives you a little bit more of a build-up. Jumping onto the grid and the first thing you see is the red lights can be a bit daunting, can catch you off guard. Which just gives everybody one more opportunity to go around the circuit, feel that full fuel tank for the first time. Don't be alarmed if you see disqualifications. It simply means the drivers didn't get their parking quite right. They'll be pushed slightly back in their grid box, so a small disadvantage for them at the start of the race. Again, terrible camera angle. Don't blame me, blame the game. There's the 5 red lights. At least we've got a good view of them. And now the drivers are going away from us rather than to us. Give us a better camera angle. There we go. It's Ferrari leads the way into turn 1 as he did in the sprint race. Crash Cartoon holds on to P2 for now, and Spikes immediately makes up a position, gets past Divan, but we know Divan can make some overtakes of his own, but concedes for now. Does he? No, he doesn't. Comes back around the inside, but the Red Bull, I was going to say, should have the better of him now. Up the hill, yes he is. Divan slots in behind the Red Bull. Pantry Star P5, Smurf P6. Then we have Convoy, Virus, Andre, and Top Gun making up the top 10. Just outside the top 10, Boinkies, Mr. Rem, Chums, Skull made up one position. He's in P14. Then Stoffel, Rhino at the rear of the field. Back to the front. It's Ferrari, led the entire sprint race from pole position to the checkered flag. How he would love to do the same in the feature race, but the feature race is a different story. It's not a 12 lap race, it's going to be a 35 lap race. Pit windows are going to be involved, and I'm sure he's hoping safety cars won't be 22.4. Of course, that's the end of the first lap. You're always going to have a purple lap from the leader. Those lap times will come down a lot. Of course, towards the end of the race, when the cars are lighter, lots of times we see a driver come in, put on a set of softs, and absolutely blitz the field in the fastest lap. Of course, if you do have the fastest lap, as well as finishing inside the top 10, that fastest lap counts as one extra point towards your championship challenge. It's Ferrari still out front, Harsh Platoon still P2. These two pretty P1, P2 in the sprint race, and now they matching each other in the early stages of the feature race. Spike still P3, Divan looked like he just went wide there, went off circuit, but rejoins the track without losing any positions. Pantry Star P5, Convoy P6. Important to remember, we saw 3 or 4 drivers picking up penalties in what was a short sprint race. Of course, if you carry on at that sort of rate in a feature race, you're going to land up with a whole handful of penalties at the end. Smurf, then Virus, Andre P9, Top Gun, coming under pressure, holding on to that final point, is trying to force Andre into a mistake, find a way past the Aston Martin. He's got boinkies. P11. It's a difficult position to defend that P10. Drivers behind you always want that 1 point. Sometimes you feel a bit empty at the end of the race if you finish outside the points. So if you find yourself in P11 and you can see P10, it becomes a very difficult position to defend because everyone is very eager to take it away. It's Ferrari, 7 tenths at the end of lap 3. Not really able to shake off that Ferrari. That Ferrari has shaken off Spikes. Spikes down in P3, a further 1.5 seconds down the road. I wonder if he made some sort of mistake, but he's been backed up into Divan. There's definitely a gap between the top 2 and the rest of the field now, 1.5 seconds. All these cars were quite close together. So now Spikes still just ahead of Divan, but both those cars have lost a little bit of momentum. Will be looking to reel in the leaders yet again. Don't want them to get too far up the road. Convoy P5, Panther Star P6, Smurf falling down the order P7, then Virus, the second Ferrari P8, Top Gun P9, and Andre holding on to the points in P10. Bring up your tyre screen and it almost looks like a repeat of the sprint race. Everybody must have liked those mediums. So everyone, with the exception of Andre, starting on the medium compound. Andre going with something slightly different. It's on the hard. That will give him a little bit of respite. He'll feel good about that because he's matching the cars around him and he's on the hard tyre. Those mediums will fall off. And then the advantage should come to the Aston Martin. Just now starting to lose touch with the car ahead. That's Top Gun and the Mercedes. It's Ferrari, your leader. Oscar 2 and P2. CP3, they're quite a way away. Almost 1.5 seconds adrift. Let those leaders get away. They need to reel them in. They need to get them within DRS. otherwise this could very quickly become two different races. If those top two are able to disappear. This guy then started the race in P3. Lost the position early on to Spikes. Now these two have been matching each other lap after lap for pace. A little further back, Conboy, he's made up a lot of positions. He's made up a multitude of positions. Was having a good sprint race and then went backwards. Started pretty low for the feature race, but now he's made himself a contender for this race. He's in P5 and he's now starting to cause all sorts of trouble for the Sauber and the Red Bull. The Sauber and the Red Bull, Divan and Spikes, they were in a battle with each other for a couple of laps. Now the Red Bull's come and got itself involved. I'll bring up the battery, I'm just not going to read it out. Some drivers complain. Not really complain, I just get a message saying, rather don't do that. I'm not going to read out the battery levels. Could give drivers an unfair advantage if they are listening in the background. Of course, that's really the only additional information we have. Can't see things like tyre wear. Can't even see the weather forecast. It's Ferrari leads from Harsh Batum, Divan P3, Spikes, Conboy, Pantry Star, Smurf, Virus, Top Gun, Andre. That's your top 10. This is the man at the rear of that. In P10, he's on a set of hard tyres. He's looking to go a little deeper into the race than everybody else in front of him. That field's still very close together on lap 7. In the race earlier on this afternoon, drivers that started on softs, they made their first pit stops around about lap 7. Nobody on the soft compound though, everybody on the medium with the exception of this Aston Martin over here. It's Andre, the other Aston Martin. Things not going quite his way down in P13, hasn't been able to make up the positions he was hoping for. But of course not all is lost. We've seen safety cars, we've seen things that trigger complete reversals in the timing sheets. And the further up the track you are, the better. There's no point in losing hope and falling back. It's Ferrari still out front. And now the gap down to the Ferrari, that is crucial. It's 1.1 seconds. It means he's broken DRS, and if he is slightly faster than that Ferrari, now it will begin to show. Remember, if you're only a few tenths faster than the driver behind, his DRS will nullify that, will neutralize the gap. Once you get out of that DRS, if you've got 2 or 3 tenths on your opponent each and every single lap, that gap will continue to grow, and the man in P2 will have a much more difficult time of staying with you. I think it's Ferrari, knows, needs to get on with it. Conboy is cleared, Spikes, he's cleared, Divan, he's now up into P3, this is the driver we're speaking about. He's now chased in Harshgar 2 not so long ago. The gap was 1.5 seconds, it's already down to 1.2 seconds, found himself 3 tenths in half a sector. You can see the top 2 ahead of him and he wants to join the club. We have our first breakage in the race. It's not a full safety car, fortunately for us, just the virtual safety car. Have a quick look around the track map, see if there's anybody stationary. Is that a Varsuk circuit? No, it's not. It's just a white dot on the Ferrari. But just a virtual safety car. course, this does not neutralize the race in the same way that a full safety car does. Drivers don't have to slow down quite as much, but you do need to drive within an average speed, stay within a delta, keep that delta green. If that delta happens to be red, where the DRS is enabled, like we saw right there, well, you're going to get a penalty. Caution flashes up on our screen. It's in the middle of sector 2. Don't see anybody off the racetrack, but the caution continues. It's Ferrari leads the way from Harsh Cartoon, Convoy P3, then Divan going off the circuit. That might cost him a position, but Spike's not close enough to take that position away from the Sauber. Then Pantry Star still P6, Smurf P7. Of course, what the virtual safety car is supposed to do is everybody's supposed to drive within an average speed, within a delta. And the point of that is that it won't change the race too much. If a gap was 5 seconds going into the virtual safety car, it should be 5 seconds coming out of the virtual safety car, but you know it never is. You're really awake and you're on the edge of that delta. You can make up a lot of time on your opponent if you catch him napping. Again, cautions flashing up on our screen. These drivers probably just getting tires on the grass. So dangerous here in Hungary. Call it Monaco without barriers, but I assure you the barriers are there. Runoff areas aren't as long as you think. Maybe gravel in places, but if you choose to come off at the wrong spot, barriers are not far away. That'll be the end of your race, and it might even trigger a safety car and throw the whole race on its head. We've had the one virtual, we've had the one retirement. It was one of the Williams at the rear of the field. The other Williams, Stoffel, still in the race, P15. This is Mr. M, having a lonely race. He'd like to be further up the field by his teammate in P5. And Rhino was at the rear of the field for a long time, makes his way up to P13. Skulls made up another position into P12. He'll be starting to think about points, but I don't think he's come into the pits just yet. Some drivers jumping into the pits. Harsh Cartoon, one of those drivers. Another one of those drivers was Virus. For the drivers out the front, Ferrari, Convoy, Divan, those three choosing to stay out on the medium tyre. I wonder if Harsh Cartoon was thinking undercut. We will soon find out, because surely these top or the remaining medium runners will react, or will they react pretty early for a safety car, lap 10, rather pit stop, lap 10. Wonder if he just wasn't enjoying those tires, or if he had some sort of problem. He's gotten rid of those tires fairly early on, and as you can see, the leaders, they're continuing. So the rest of the medium runners not responding to that move, staying out there. Harsh Cartoon, though, with other ideas, he went into the pits. There you can see the Ferrari. He's now got a set of hards that will most likely take him to the end of the race, and if we have a late safety car, he'll come in and throw on a set of softs. But for now, it's going to be a bit of a marathon. Next part of his race, it's just about setting consistent laps, consistently quick laps. He's got a 12.5 second gap to Boinkies ahead of him, so he's got some clean air. Just needs to put the laps in, and hopefully the leaders are battling for position. Ooh, lots of lockups. Almost looks like incidents off in the gravel, but luckily it's just smoke coming off the tyres. 11 laps on the mediums for everyone in the top 7. Andre, the first man, actually the only man to start on the hards. He's down in P8. Then Boinkies, also 11 laps on the mediums. Harsh Cartoon, the first of those men 2 have pit. And the leaders again go around on the medium. I did think lap 10 was a little early. Wonder if he just had a problem. Wonder if the tires were just starting to slip. He didn't feel comfortable. That means he's had to come in before everybody else. That could be a disadvantage at the end of the race, when his tires don't have much more to give. It's Ferrari has lost the lead of the race. Convoy is the new leader. Pantry Star up into P3, and now this order is starting to switch. Convoy, Ferrari, Pantry Star on the move. Divan holding on to the Mercedes, and again just so much smoke. You always think somebody's gone into the gravel. Luckily that's not the case. Of course, everyone watching, Skull, Death Queen, Kalen, Boinkies. If you're not watching, you're just listening in the background. Thanks for joining, thanks for the likes. We've got more likes than we have views, so that's a good thing. Convoy eventually into the pits. 12 laps on those mediums. It's Ferrari. He's going to try something different. Stays out an extra lap on the mediums. Pantry Star also staying out on the mediums. This is Divan. Andre all the way up into P4 now. I haven't spoken much about Andre, but what he's been able to do so well in this race, he's been able to maintain the pace of the cars around him, even though he did not have the compound of tyre to be matching those times. So he finds himself in P4. It's about 7 seconds adrift from the lead, which means when these 3 medium runners do come into the pits, he should lead the race for a period of time. Should be one of the drivers to go deepest into this race. I think when those drivers do pit and come out on fresh tyres, he will look at their pace, how quickly are they closing the gaps, and that will determine when Andre is going to come into the pits. Obviously he's going to have the slight advantage in the closing stages of the race, because rather the second stint of the race, because he's going to be on the faster compound. Everyone else was on the faster compound at the start. He's going to be on the faster compound at the end. That might prove crucial. It's Ferrari still leads. 14 laps on the mediums. Pantry Star 14 laps on the mediums in P2. But now Convoy is on the hards. He's one of the drivers to have made a pit stop. Divan, also one of those lead cars to now have made a pit stop. Comes out in P11. That's a disadvantage of having such a close field. Everyone wants to see a close field. But when you go into the pits and you come out 6, 7, 8 positions behind where you were, it can be really frustrating, especially if you come out in traffic. Cars around you are on a different strategy. You're out of sync with them. They don't have to give you the position. And sometimes you just find yourself behind someone's rear wing when you should be firing in the laps at a crucial time. Another thing, fortunately for the drivers, none of the teammates running too close together. Always nice to see the teammates running line astern, but when it comes to the pit window, it does complicate things. Who pits first? Are you going to try pit on the same lap, risk the double stack? Of course, pit windows, you'll know pit windows if you watch this afternoon, can be quite complicated. Andre, your new leader. Remember, started down the field in P7, I believe it was. Started on the hard compound, the only driver in the field to attempt that strategy. He's going to go as deep as he can into this race. Driver behind him is Smurf. still on the medium tyres he started the race on. The only driver that started on mediums that is still on mediums is the Haas. He's got more out of these mediums than anybody else. 15 laps. What happens is sometimes you just stay out there one lap too many. Drivers behind you too quick on the fresh rubber. Come into the pits and you find out you've lost 3 or 4 seconds in the process. Just for being out there that extra time. And we start, well, rather Smurf now really coming under pressure from Conboy, and I'm almost certain we're going to see him dive into the pits, get rid of those tyres. No, he doesn't. Actually tried to defend the position. He's now lost the position to Conboy. Conboy up into P2. Smurf 16 laps on the medium compound. What strategy does he have in mind? He's doing something a little different. Three of the race contenders down in P6. He's made his pit stop. He's had his pit window. He'll be open for no damage, no return to the pits. Of course, let me know in the comment section if you know a little better than me. Is this a one stop? Is this a two stop? What will they be doing? Going from the medium, pitting lap 15. Is it possible to get to the end? That would be 20 laps on the hard tyre, and I think that is indeed possible. So I think some of these hard runners will be looking to go right to the end of the race, and if a safety car does come out, they'll breathe a sigh of relief that they don't need to worry about those last few laps. They can come in, put on something better. They have a fresh set of softs, maybe just another set of mediums. But for now, Andre doing everything he needs to do. He's in the lead. That gap behind him though, 4.2 seconds, and Conboy setting purple laps. The most important time. Remember, gap between him and Harsh Cartoon was a lot smaller than that. It's now 4.7 seconds. That's what can happen in the pit window. Sometimes you think, I had the perfect pit stop, the 2.2 seconds that the game gives you, it's the best pit stop you can have. How did this guy make up so much time on me? Sometimes it's the pit entry. How brave are you? How late are you going to be on the brakes just before that speed limiter? How quick do you get on the power on the exit? Sometimes it's not the pit stop itself. It's your entry and your exit. But that gap, 2.7 seconds. Conboy now making serious inroads on the leader, and you've got to start wondering, when does Andre pit? Those tyres have had their best days. Surely he needs to go a little deeper than this. Saw the guys on mediums, the ones that went a little further, 15 laps on the mediums, some of them doing 12 laps on the mediums. So he'd have to take these hards up to lap 20, put on a set of mediums, go to the end of the race. But for now, might be asking a little too much of those mediums. Gonna have to stretch these tyres out for another lap or two. I hope Conboy doesn't get too close and come and interfere in his run plan. This is Skull. He's having a fantastic evening, start to a fantastic evening in the sprint race. He's up in P5, held on to that position for a majority of the race. Then there was contact, some sort of contact. He didn't really see the details of it. But he left the racetrack in a hurry, found himself outside the points, outside the top 10. Started in that position. But in the feature race, just hasn't been able to gain momentum, hasn't been able to find overtakes. And he's also picked up a penalty, make things even more difficult. But tonight not going according to plan on that side of the Aston Martin garage. The other Aston Martin's just been overtaken into turn 1, Conboy, now your new leader. And we have a virtual safety car. And Andre will be thinking, why didn't that come out 3 corners earlier? He would have been able to pit, get a fresh set of tires on, everybody would have to slow down, they wouldn't be able to go around at racing speed. Makes a huge difference to your pit stop. Not quite a free pit stop like in a safety car, but it will make a very big difference when your opponents are not driving around at 300 kilometers an hour. So again, like the first time, virtual safety car. No full safety car, everybody just has to drive within that delta, make sure the delta stays green. Sometimes you don't get any sort of notification that the virtual safety car is ending, and it's quite abrupt. You just get a DRS enabled notification on your screen, and if that if that delta happens to be in the red when that happens, well, if that delta happens to be in the red when that happens, that's exactly what happens. Mr. M gets a penalty. Let's just get confirmation on that penalty. Actually, he's just come into the pits, so I believe that's a 10-second penalty. You should see Mr. M come into the pit box. Not sure what's happened there. Convoy nevertheless leads the race by 6.5 seconds. What an advantage to have at this stage of the race. Harsh Cartoon P2 could be coming under pressure from its Ferrari. Ferrari's had the pace all evening. Remember, winner of the sprint race from pole, led the race all the way, won the race. And then in the feature race, he's done a fantastic job. He's still holding on to P3, and he's got quite the advantage to Virus behind him. Bring up your tyre screens again. I think that's going to be one of the most important screens going into the closing stages of this race. Who's using what tyre, and what is the tyre life on that tyre? You look at Harsh Cartoon. He's got 10 laps. Make that 11 laps on the hard tyre. 13 to go. I think he's going to have to stretch his hard tyres the most. I'm sure he'd be hoping for some sort of race neutralization towards the end so he could come into the pits, but that wouldn't help him much. This field has been so close together that making a late pit stop could throw you all the way down the field. Look at that DRS battle all the way from Spikes, Divan, Pantry Star, Top Gun. All of those cars so close together. Lap 22 of 35, and these guys are still matching each other lap for lap. That's what you get on a Sunday night. Don't know what it is about the Sunday nights. I don't know if it's the guys that have just watched the F1 and it gets them a little bit amped up. But such close racing. So many cars within DRS, so many positions still at stake with so few laps to go. And that's what you want to see. You don't want to see predictable races. You don't want to see drivers pulling off into the distance. When you see those drivers having to work for that victory from turn 1 all the way to the checkered flag, there's nothing easy about it. You've got someone in your mirrors the whole time. And that's what we've seen today, with the exception of this man, Convoy. Sprint race didn't go according to plan. Made up good positions at the start, but by the end of the sprint race, found himself outside the top 10. Had to do it all again in the feature race, but he didn't get it wrong in the feature race. Got it spot on. Leads the way, 9.5 seconds, trying to get that gap into the double digits. It's Ferrari in P2. We've got a caution flashing. I believe that's in sector 3. I don't see a stationary car. Well, it's gone onto a solid caution, but no sign of a safety car for now. And that is a DNF. A DNF for Skull. The second Aston Martin has now retired from the race. His teammate, still in P9, on a fresh set of mediums. He's going to have much better tyres than the cars around him. Looking to make up some places. He led the race briefly. That would have felt quite nice. Convoy, Ferrari, Harsh Cartoon, Spikes, Divan. These two, they've matched each other the entire evening, whether it was the sprint race, whether it was the feature race, whether it was before the pit window or after the pit window. You find these two cars together on the racetrack, somehow magnetized together. They match each other lap after lap. For the Red Bull, must get quite tiring looking at the back of that neon green rear wing. Quite a bright rear wing to be looking at for a long extended period of time. You want to get past. Give Divan some of his own medicine. Death Queen just saying sorry to Skull. Definitely disappointing. Had such a good start to the evening. Ran in P5 in that sprint race. Then everything really went south after that contact. Something that can always happen here in Hungary. Not one of the widest circuits on the calendar. One of the classic circuits. Held its first Grand Prix in 1986. Track hasn't changed much since then. Has been slightly widened. New pit complex has been built. But if you've seen the pit complexes around the world, they need to build a new pit complex yet again, because, well, those garages are a little small here in Hungary. Charles Leclerc almost losing a rear tyre yesterday in qualifying, coming out of the pits, almost clipping the outside of the garage door. Apparently missing it by a matter of millimeters. Convoy, he has broken the gap into the double digits, 10.5 seconds. Then we've got Ferrari. He has shaken off the likes of Harsh Cartoon in the Ferrari, so he's going to be in a more comfortable position there in P2. So important for those top three drivers in the closing stages. Don't lose your concentration. Don't pick up a penalty. Could cost you really harshly. Divan in P4, but he's lost contact with the top three, and he's got a penalty next to his name. Spikes, you said those two were inseparable. Well, now there is a bit of a gap. 1.9 seconds. I wonder if Spikes just made some sort of an error. Maybe they did get a little too close together, a little too magnetized, and one of them came off second best. Virus P6, and a pair of Mercedes running 7 and 8, Banqui Star and Top Gun. Well, it's a bit nerve-wracking at the end of the race when you're trying to make up positions and then your teammates are right there. Last thing you want to do is make contact in the closing stages. And there's not long to go. Throw a whole bunch of points away. All of those drivers, whether they're teammates or not, they want the best possible result. They want the best possible position. And when that racing driver mindset kicks in, you're always going to go for the gap. If it's your teammate, might make you second think it, but you're still going to go for that gap. Convoy out front, 10.5 seconds, so the gap has stabilized. He's not growing it anymore, but maybe just managing the tires. Knows he's won the race, get the car to the end. We have seen these drivers do in the past is build a 20-second gap just for fun, go in and put a set of softs and steal the fastest lap. But there's no need to do that. In fact, the gap is coming down. Wonder if everything is okay with the Alpine. And he has responded, it goes back up. I just saw it drop ever so briefly into the 9 seconds. Wondered if Convoy had made some sort of mistake, but now almost up to 11. So if there was a mistake, he immediately responded to it. Harsh Cartoon holding on to his podium position, and at the moment it looks like I would say a comfortable one, but in fact it's a fairly comfortable one. He's got a 5.6 second gap to Divan behind. Divan has a penalty though. Pantry Star P5, Virus, then Spikes. Surprising to see Spikes down the order. So quick in the sprint race. So quick in this race, but he's made some sort of an error, some sort of a mistake. Caused him to fall down the field. Seems to have all his end plates on the car. Could have been contact. Could have been a few moments off the race circuit. You get grass all over the tyres. You lose momentum. You just don't have the grip you want. It takes a while to get the temperature back. And with the DRS trains as long as they are tonight, you don't want to be the tyre. You don't want to be the driver with the tyre that is cold. You simply get swamped. And I think that's what happened here with Spikes. Lost 2 positions to Pantry Star and Virus. Andre still holding on to P8. He'll ride with the leader as he starts lap 29. Not certain, but I'm pretty sure this is second to Monaco in terms of laps for the 50% race. I think Monaco is 39. Here in Hungary, 35 laps. Of course, the race distance remains the same whether you're doing 22 laps in Belgium or 35 laps in Hungary. 50% race is approximately 150 kilometers in distance. So regardless of the racetrack, if the racetrack is shorter, you get more lap times, or you get more laps. So race time will always come to round about the same. When Kyle Army was still on the F1 calendar, it was a total of 73 laps. Of course, if we had the full Nürburgring layout on the F1 calendar, I believe it would be something like, I think it's something like 14 laps. It would be a very difficult qualifying session to conduct. That is a very, very long outlap. Probably everyone would get one run. Convoy leads the way, 12 seconds. That's the largest the gap has been. It's Ferrari. Pretty sure he has accepted P2, knows he can't stay with the Alpine. Just needs to make sure he stays ahead of the Ferrari and outside of the penalties column. Then Harsh Cartoon P3. Got a gap 4.1 seconds down to Divan, and then Divan's got an additional 3 seconds, so he doesn't need to worry about the drivers at the back. Don't think he's got much chance of catching the car ahead. Convoy, Ferrari, Harsh Cartoon, Divan, Pantry Star, Virus, and Spikes. Andre doing a good job, but he would have enjoyed that time at the front of the race. He would have enjoyed that time in the lead of the race. Came on, put on a set of mediums. He would have been hoping to have made up a lot more positions by now, and now we've got a Red Bull in the wall. That's a caution. But somehow that Red Bull has stayed in one piece. No virtual safety car, no full safety car, simply 360 and back on his way. But that is the Red Bull of Mr. M. Just not the sort of night he would have wanted, having all sorts of troubles with this Hungary layout. Of course, following the F1 calendar where it is possible. So if there is a race on the Sunday, we simply follow that race. When there is no race on the Sunday, then the calendar randomizes. So next week, as with F1, we will be in Spa, very different circuit, much more high speed circuit than this. Hungary, lots of downforce. So important to get it right in the slow parts of the circuit. Belgium all about top speed. And the rightful birthplace of Max Verstappen. Of course, Max was not born in the Netherlands, he was born in Belgium. His mother is from Belgium. Everybody knows his father is Jos Verstappen, ex-Formula 1 driver. Not many know his mother was previously a Dutch rally champion. So motorsport in the blood coming from both sides, and you can see the result. But today he had no answer for the McLarens. The front of this race though, all those DRS trains we got used to seeing, field so close together, now we're starting to see a big change. Lots of gaps starting to form, maybe drivers starting to accept their position, maybe drivers starting to look at their tyre percentages and rethink their approach to the final few laps of the race. See Convoy too far ahead, it's free in a comfortable P2, Harsh Cartoon in a comfortable P3. Ivan relatively close, but he's got those penalties to worry about, so Harsh Cartoon is safe. Then Pantry Star in P3, he's just outside that 3 second mark, 3.1 seconds to Divan. He needs to close that, needs to find a couple of tenths so he can steal that position away, get himself up into P4, maximize his points on the night. Virus, the second Ferrari. Good evening for the Ferrari team, P3 and 6, considering he's able to bring that home. Andre has made up for one more position, was in P8, he's now up into P7. I think that position changed, maybe as a result of the Mr. M spin. He's come in and put on a set of softs. Of course, no fastest lap point if you finish outside the top 10. So if you're wondering why would those two drivers go put on softs if they simply can't get the point anyway, well, it's to make sure no one in the top 10 gets the point. That point could decide the championship. More championships than you can imagine have come down to 1 point. Of course, 89, 1990, 1994, all coming down to 1 point, and almost 1997, but at that stage the FIA had enough of Michael Schumacher's antics in the finale of a season. That's why if you go look through the record books, you'll see that in 1997 Michael Schumacher finished last in the championship with absolutely 0 points. He was disqualified from the entire season. Imagine how harsh that must feel. Defend a little too hard instead of finishing P2 in the championship. You finish last. Convoy, 12.5 seconds. Hasn't really kept on increasing that gap. It got to about the 10-second mark and then he's just managed it. Don't want to do anything too silly here in Hungary. Get a wheel on the grass, you make a mistake, you find the barrier, you lose an end plate. Just trying to keep things simple, bring the car home. He's almost done that. 21 laps on the hards, 22 laps on the hards, and over the line. We're going to have to wait for a while to see who comes over next. It's going to be SKR, comes around the final corner now. There he is. Goes over the line for a well-fought P2. Harsh Cartoon. Where is Harsh Cartoon? We await Harsh Cartoon. There he is. For a second there, I thought a Red Bull got past him, but I think he was about to lap that Red Bull. Luckily for the drivers right at the rear of the field, there's one benefit of being a lap back. Well, you don't have to finish the race. Of course, if you cross the line after the leader has finished, your race ends right there. Don't need to go and do the 1 or 2 remaining laps, whatever's left. Now, just with the exception of Spikes, who comes over the line now, that is the Hungarian Grand Prix. Driver of the day goes to Convoy. That'll be an easy one to remember, because the winner of the race is also Convoy. So after some brief podium celebrations, let's just read out your results. Convoy takes the victory from P11 on the grid. Fantastic race for him. Didn't manage to get the fastest lap though. Then it's SKR P2, had a strong race. Harsh Cartoon P3, Pantry Star P4. They're followed by Divan, Virus, Boinkies, Andre picked up P8 there. Then Top Gun P9 and Smurf makes up the points paying positions. Further down the field and outside of the points, Rhino P11 oh so close to a point, then Spikes P12, Stoffel 13, Mr. M 14, and then retirements for the Aston Martin of Skull, and very early on in the race, the Williams of Chums. Of course, now those 3 drivers at the top of the field, Convoy, SKR, Harsh Cartoon, you are obviously invited to the NFR cool down room. We can have a short chat about your race. I will be in the comms box. I'm supposed to be in the comms box, but I'm not in the comms box. I'll be there shortly. Let's see if anybody has joined. Do have Convoy in the cool down room. We'll bring him in a few moments. Just want to see if anybody else decides to join. So we've got a few viewers. Did any of you watch the race this afternoon? What did you guys think of the race this afternoon? And of course, if you're in the comment section and you have a question for any of the top 3, let me know. I'll try and pass that question on. Seems like we just have Convoy. We'll bring Convoy into the comms box. If anybody else does join the cool down room, we'll bring them in accordingly. Right, we have Convoy with us now. Convoy, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How are you, Mr. Nando?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good.
So tell me a little bit about your race. Tell me about the sprint race first up. It looked like you made up a few positions, but then by the end of the race, you were in P11.
Yeah, the sprint was not one of my best moments. I think Buenke's was lagging a lot, and then that caused me a bit of damage on my end plate, and then I was just off the pace.
And then obviously in the feature race, things went a little bit more your way. Started in P11, driver of the day, winner of the race. What was that, a 12 and a half
Yeah,
second
it
lead?
was much better. I think the undercut really helped me out a lot over there. Otherwise, it would have been a lot closer.
Okay,
Hello.
we've also got Harsh Cartoon in the comms box. Harsh Cartoon, I was start with your sprint race, and then tell us a little bit about the feature race.
Yeah, it started off myself and my teammate Varus had a discussion before the actual race and said, okay, we're going to pit early so to get that undercut in the main race. But yeah, the sprint race went down well. And the race, yeah, had good points for Ferrari there.
Yeah, good points for
But yeah,
Ferrari. I think Virus was also in the top five.
yes. It's good points for Ferrari there, but I could not keep up with the convoy there in front. He just got away and took the race
The
from us.
pace,
Yeah.
the pace was ridiculous. I'd like to see
I said to
what I don't know what sort of
yeah,
stuff he's got attached to that wheel, but I think there's some.
Under
some
control now, under control. Oh
No,
my
that
God.
makes it worse. Oh wow, that
yeah,
makes it
no, it was sick.
worse. This man's on a controller. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. That was wild.
No, that does
Yeah,
make it worse. I just thought he had some top end wheel, but yeah. No, that
yeah,
was a good evening. I always enjoy the sprint races. You know, if a sprint race doesn't go your way, you get a second go at things.
Under
It helps.
And then I just want to check the YouTube if anybody sent any questions through. What? Oh, I have a question for who's this for? This for Harsh Cartoon. Question for Harsh Cartoon from Visor. Why do you still drive with? Well, that's blocked. I think it says full traction. Do you drive with full traction?
Yes.
Okay, well, you're an
But
incredibly quick driver to be driving with full traction because doesn't that slow you down?
it does, yeah. It's exits extremely slow, so yeah, that kills you. But yeah,
Like
too
that,
little time to practice. So yeah,
somebody explained it to me as if you're doing what you're supposed to do, the assist won't slow you down. It's really when you do what you're
exactly.
not supposed to do that the assist will slow you down. So if you're driving well
yeah,
most of the time, then the assist shouldn't affect your lap time too much.
yeah. Well, I have to do it because it's too much. I don't have time to practice a lot, so only once a week. And yeah, and then on a race. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm not going to lie about it. I finished Monaco on Friday, and the only way I finished it was with full traction. Otherwise, I think that would have been a slightly different race. But
uh,
just want to see no one else has joined. But thanks for the question there from Visor. Just don't bring up the guy's secrets. I drive with traction too. I don't like to bring it up. But yeah, I'm just going to end the stream. You guys can stay a little if you want to. But to everyone who watched, everyone who joined, and everyone who's going to watch this later, thanks a lot. That was Season 8, Round 6, and we'll be back tomorrow with SAFRL Tier 1, and then again on Wednesday with Tier 2. Till then, cheers.
yes.